Hi everyone, and for today's science talk, we will be exploring Garden of the Gods Park, which is here in Colorado Springs. Back in 1859, when a surveyor named Rufus Cable first saw the towering fins of rock jetting over 300 feet into the air near Pikes Peak, which is a mountain near here, he excitedly declared that it was a fit place for the gods to assemble. From this excited outburst came the name Garden of the Gods, by which we know this beautiful Colorado Springs Park today. The spires have long captured the imagination of those who have been fortunate enough to see them, especially if it's in person. But how exactly did Mother Nature create these colorful celestial spires? Before we begin today's tour and lesson, it is important that I explain what some of these key terms mean. A rock is a hard, solid piece of naturally occurring mineral material that is tightly compacted or held together. There are three main types of rock, which are igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary. Geology is the branch of science that studies Earth's physical structure and substances, its history, and the processes that act on it. A fault is a fracture in a large amount of rock where there has been movement. A formation is an isolated, scenic, or spectacular rock structure which is often exposed on Earth's surface. And strata are layers of sedimentary or igneous rock or even soil that were formed at Earth's surface. Think of strata like layers of a cake. The story of the celestial spires of Garden of the Gods Park begins hundreds of millions of years ago, when the area around the garden hosted the mighty ancestral Rockies. Like all mountain ranges, they slowly wore away. Rewind 280 million years from the present day, and all that was left of the once lofty peaks were some low hills and a thick pile of sediment that would later form Red Rock's amphitheater. As the mountains disappeared, the climate began to dry out, and enormous sand dunes soon marched across the region, leaving behind a layer of pure, wind-blown sand with smooth, round grains that were all very similar in size. Many of the park's spires, including North Gateway Rock and White Rock, are legacies of this ancient sand sea. Similar rocks, often with the steep, angular layering characteristics of sand dunes, have been found anywhere from Arizona all the way up through Montana, indicating that this desert was the size of the Sahara Desert in scale. After millions of years, the dunes retreated. The sands were buried beneath younger sediments and gradually compacted or smushed together and cemented into the uniform sandstone known as the Lyons Formation, which is used today across the Front Range often as patio stone. Although originally deposited in horizontal or side-to-side sheets, the Lyons Formation was later deformed by tremendous forces associated with the rise of the current Rocky Mountains, which began about 65 million years ago, and it uplifted the much older igneous and metamorphic or basement rocks that formed the Rockies' core. In the process, the Lyons sandstone was tilted, especially near the major faults. This planar feature, where much of the uplift occurred, is quite prominent. One of these faults runs right through the Garden of the Gods, and its handiwork, or the amazing fins, which we also call hogbacks, will surely continue to inspire visitors for what to mere mortals will seem like eternity. The outstanding geologic features of the park are the ancient sedimentary beds of deep red and pink and white sandstones, conglomerates, and limestones that were deposited horizontally but have now been tilted vertically and faulted into fins or hogbacks by the immense mountain building forces caused by the uplift of the modern Rocky Mountains and the Pikes Peak Massif. Following the Pleistocene Ice Age, erosion resulted through the glaciation of rock, creating the present rock formations. Evidence of past ages can be read in the rocks: ancient seas, eroded remains of ancestral mountain ranges, alluvial fans, sandy beaches, and the great sand dune fields. Because of this tectonic activity, the resulting rocks had different shapes: toppled, overturned, stood up, pushed around, and slanted. Balance rock, composed of the Fountain Formation, is a combination of coarse sand, gravel, silica, and hematite. It is hematite that gives the large balanced rock its red color. Balanced rock was formed as erosive processes removed soft layers near its base, eventually leaving the precarious-looking formation seen today. What is left is primarily cap rock, which is held together by stronger cementing agents and often has a slightly different texture. Around 70 million years ago, the Siamese twins would have been trapped in the freshly formed fountain formation. Eventually, the softer rocks around the Siamese twins were weathered away, leaving the twins as one connected rock. More weathering had to occur to create the arch the Siamese twins form today. Wind carries particles away from the rock. In addition to wind, rainwater dissolves the small amounts of hematite which bond the sandstone together. And after millions of years, the twins were weathered enough to create the two columns and arch they are today. The Siamese twins are an arkose, which is a type of sandstone that contains more than 25% feldspar. The twins are mostly composed of potassium feldspar, which is pink, and quartz, which is white. Their grains came from the Pikes Peak granite in the nearby mountains, which was eroded and deposited into the fountain formation. The Siamese twins are still bound together by solid rock, but a close inspection shows a crack along which weathering is slowly accomplishing its work of destruction. A few grains of sand may be loosened and blown away each day, and this process is repeated almost indefinitely and will finally sever their connection, forcing these columns to stand separate and distinct. Erosion and weathering are both a very slow process, but are always in operation, removing grains of sand and loosening them as they carry them away. Under this constant attack, new and picturesque forms are being produced, and the old pinnacles and towers and cap rocks and columns are being worn away. These interesting monuments show activity, and through the weathering process, eventually will be worn down to the ground. But that time will be so far in the future that the loss of these monuments shouldn't be a worry. Sentinel spires and sentinel rock are the result of tectonic activity. Here, a thrust fault thrust what was once a side-to-side or horizontal rock vertically, almost straight up in the air. Sentinel rock is composed of two of the rock formations which are found in the central part of the park, the Fountains Formation and the Lions Formation. The Fountain Formation, found primarily on the west side of Sentinel Rock, is a conglomerate made up of coarse-grained sediments. It is also considered partially an arkosic sandstone. The Fountain Formation is composed of stream sediments which were deposited as gravels from the erosion of the ancestral Rocky Mountains millions of years ago. Other rock formations found in the park, which are composed of arkosic sandstone, include Cathedral Spires, the Three Graces, and the Siamese Twins. Lions sandstone in the Lions Formation on the east side of the park is a quartz sandstone that is the remnant of the field of ancient sand dunes that were once here. Over time, the sand dunes were buried, compacted, and turned into rock. Ripple marks can even be seen in the sandstone, as well as cross-bedding, which was caused by wind action on the dunes. North Gateway Rock, South Gateway Rock, White Rock, and the Sleeping Giant are all made of Lion sandstone. Different colors in these formations are caused by the different amounts of iron oxide and different minerals that are present in these rocks. As previously mentioned, Colorado has an extremely active tectonic history that has changed the underlying geology of much of this region. The Rampart Range fault has been heavily affected by tectonic activity and runs directly through Garden of the Gods Park. It is considered a thrust fault. It also extends into Red Rocks Canyon open space and Bear Creek Park. Along this fault, the activity has led to the formation and deformation of both the Lions and Fountain formations. I hope you all have enjoyed your lecture and tour through Garden of the Gods Park here in Colorado Springs. As you can see, the unique geologic history has made for some stunning landscapes and unique geologic forms. Just as a reminder, the key terms are important. I hope your takeaway is that you understand what a rock is, what geology is, the importance of faults and tectonic activity, what a rock formation is, and what makes up strata. Additionally, remember that balanced rock, Siamese twins, and sentinel spires are some of the most popular and beautiful formations within the park. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below, or if you have any suggestions for future videos, please let me know. Thanks and join me next time. Bye!